You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
Matt Lazowitz, and welcome to this week's episode of Bat Chat with Matt and Will, a Batman ranking podcast, where each week my co-host Will Nevin and I dig into 3 Batman stories, discuss them, and rank them on the big board, thus creating a giant list of Batman stories from best to worst. Will, how's it going tonight?
Oh, Matt, same old, sliding into the dark abyss of fascism, just the same old. You're not on Facebook, right?
I am not. I still have a Facebook. I have not deleted it in the same way I deleted my Twitter, but I have it mostly because I just didn't want to get rid of Messenger because there are people who I contact through Messenger and thus have that app.
Yeah, Messenger can be quite useful. The main Facebook, or at least the short form content, I continue to be exposed to on Facebook. And look, we've talked about this along, many opening bits. Because look, here are the things I do in my life. I go to work, I go to the gym, I run, read for the show, I do the show, I sleep, I repeat. And then in between, I'm on Facebook looking at these dumb videos. So, I've already talked about how, I've been served up fart videos and animal fart videos because I continue to look at the train wreck of AI videos. I get nothing but more AI videos. And it's not that I'm that interested in them, or at least I'm not amused by them. It's just the awful spectacle of them. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen Mr. Rogers explaining sharts, queefs, what he called the infinite Dookie paradox. Just wild stuff. But now they're getting really now they're getting weird. Just now. There's apparently a whole genre of chiropractic misadventures. Chiropractors throwing patients through walls. Chiropractors hitting patients with hammers. What other awfulness have I seen? Just unfunny, mind-numbingly stupid 10-second clips that are poisoning our skies and our waters. And somebody's making money off of it, and it's not me.
Do you know the origin of chiropractic?
Something about fucking ghost, isn't it?
Yeah, the first chiropractor, Daniel David Palmer, I had to look up the name while you were talking because I know the story, but I couldn't remember the dude's name, believed that he had been imparted the knowledge of chiropractic by a ghost. Or claimed he did. Yeah. This was during the spiritualist movement, so it was a great time for grifters.
Oh, yeah. And look, I know you might be listening to this and thinking to yourself, oh, but Matt and Will, my chiropractor is a great guy. No, he's a fucking scumbag. They're not doctors. It's all fake. And I tell you this, there's a special place in hell for the people who do adjustments on babies and pets.
That's awful.
Yeah, those people are going directly to hell. Fucking express lane to hell.
There's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer discovers, it's a B plot, it's a Homer B plot, where he discovers there's a trash can. If he pushes someone over and they fall back first onto the trash can, it adjusts their backs. And then a bunch of chiropractors come and, rough him up and destroy the trash can. But it's clearly a statement on what a grift chiropractic is.
Yeah, and you might sit there and argue, oh, but I feel good. I feel good. Placebo effect is real, and I don't care. And look, this is an anecdote. It's not real data. But one of the saddest things I ever saw on Reddit was a guy I feel like I've talked about this before, but a guy looking for digital, comics recommendations because he had been paralyzed from a chiropractor.
Oh.
So yeah, again, grifters and so many of them hellbound. Movies. What we seeing this week?
I am seeing Begonia.
Okay. We've talked about it before. I wanted to hear you pronounce it. Begonia.
Yes, Begonia.
Begonia. Looks fascinating. Can't
Yes.
wait.
Oh yeah. I love Yorgos Lanthimos' stuff. It's all just really weird, really fascinating stuff. And the stuff that he's done with Emma Stone has been always great. Beyond that, not much
Did he
coming.
do the last thing Emma Stone was in? The thing with Willem Dafoe, the Oscar movie?
Yeah, Poor Things.
Yeah.
Yep, Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness, which was another one in between them. He does a movie a year. Like, I'm really impressed at how his output is. And Emma Stone's been in the past three or four.
Huh.
Beyond that, there's really very little coming out this week. I'm
I thought Running
surprised.
Man was this week, but that's
No.
next week.
Running Man is next week. I kid you not, next week there are like half a dozen movies coming out that I'm like, I could see any of these, and I have the time for maybe two movies, probably one next week. The new Predator, Running Man, Nuremberg, Die My Love, all next week.
You know, it's like Halloween is a real graveyard for movies.
But I'm
Haha. 3 long weeks until Sisu 2.
you had to get it in, didn't you?
I know, I know. I looked at the calendar. Oh God, I'm jonesing real bad.
I just booked a ticket for the Philadelphia Film Society's limited 2 days of big screen new Benoit Blanc.
Oh, you filthy bastard.
Day before and Thanksgiving Day. And I got the ticket. I'm taking the day off the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm going to see a 3:15 show on the big screen in Philly.
You filthy bastard. I don't care for that. Yeah, I just saw a headline today about how, oh, maybe Netflix is going to do more theatrical releases with the Adventures of Clint Booth. And I'm like, just fuck off. Fuck off already. I don't want to see a fucking streaming movie. I want to go to the movies. I want to have a big bucket of corn and a big bucket of soda, and enjoy myself like a goddamn American is supposed to.
I don't understand why they didn't do wide releases on the Benoit Blanc movies. I mean, Knives Out did well. And the limited release of Glass Onion, which was wider than this release of Wake Up Dead Man, again, it was the day before Thanksgiving. It was sold out. It was packed to the gills. I do not know why they are not putting these out for, even if it's a wide release of like 2 weeks or even a week. Do a full week on the big screen of these movies.
They want the awards nominations. They want the prestige. The fucking Academy is just gonna have to change, change the rules. If you want an Oscar, it's going to have to be a wide release movie. Like you're gonna have to have a real, actual theatrical engagement and not just 5 minutes in L.A., in New York, in 3 screens. Well, that should be a good time. I think this week, if I see nothing else, it might be Back to the Future in IMAX.
That does look cool. That's on my list of, okay, if I can see something on another day, because I've got stuff going on one day, but I want to try to squeeze in at least two movies on Sunday. Depending on the timing beyond Begonia, what else can I squeeze in? And if there's a Back to the Future, that is high on the list of something to try to squeeze in.
I know I was really impressed with the Jaws IMAX release, and I'm looking forward to this one if I do make it out.
Yeah,
It's been years since I've watched Back to the Future.
and now there's rumor that for the, I mean, it's still a year and change away, but for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, they're going to release the theatrical cut on the big screen again.
The actual theatrical
Yes,
cut?
the actual theatrical cut. Original, the one from 1977 will be on the big screen again. Hopefully cleaned up and restored, but none of George Lucas's tampering. Han will shoot only.
I thought that man burned all that.
Well, I have those cuts. They did a DVD release some years ago where the original cut was the special feature on the DVD. And despite already owning the Star Wars trilogy on DVD, I bought those because I wanted to
Well, of
have
course.
those. Yeah. They weren't great prints, but to still have them was worth it.
Fucking George Lucas, man.
There are like TV cuts from the 70s and 80s that work in deleted scenes. Like, I would like to see those. There's a scene in Star Wars where Luke is talking to his buddy Biggs on
Yeah.
Tatooine, and that exists sewn into the movie from like a TV cut. And I think there's a bit from Empire where when they're fleeing Hoth, 3PO knocks a sign off a door that says, Wampas, beware, or caution, Wampas. And that's the sign falls off, and the stormtroopers go in there, the snowtroopers, you hear the Wilhelm scream. I've never seen that. I've heard it exists. That might be Star Wars urban legend. There's enough of that floating around. But it sounds plausible enough.
Yeah. The days of theatrical television cuts, wild.
The days of those delightful cable cuts where they have to work over the swearing. Monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Ooh.
This is what you get when you meet a stranger in the Alps. Classic stuff. There's got to be a master cut somewhere on YouTube of the 10 best dub overs from that. I would have had a better segue if we'd stayed on Star Wars.
If we had just stayed on Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is definitely the better one.
Yeah, as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, this would be a good segue.
Because we are in the world of tomorrow this week. Because the new Batman Static Beyond series should be launching as of this week. And so we are reading 3 Batman Beyond stories.
Get in, slags.
Yes, we've got all of the future slang going on here. Our first story of the night is Commissioner of Fear. This is Batman Beyond Volume 2, number 13. The writer is Hilary J. Bader, with pencils by Min S. Q, inks by Andre Parks, colors by Lee Lawfridge, letters by Tim Harkins, and edited by Joseph P. Illidge and Frank Berrios. The cover date is November of the year 2000. Commissioner Barbara Gordon is investigating the kidnapping of a young girl, and she's getting close to finding her. But the after effects of a confrontation with the Scarecrow from years before has her reaching out for aid from the new Batman. She must find the girl before the fear overtakes her.
Now, our first 2 stories tonight are from the same volume. And then we're going to pick up with our last story from a different volume. I know we talked off air about kind of the history of what's going on here. Lay that out for the people as we get started.
The comic book history of Batman Beyond is messy. The first 2 volumes are animated series tie-ins. A 6-issue miniseries and then an ongoing that ran 24 issues. That's simple. That's nice and easy. Then around 2010, 2011, DC releases a 6-issue Batman Beyond miniseries that is no longer in the animated series style, but is in more of a traditional DC house style. That spins into a similar series that is an attempt at an ongoing. But guess what happens after a handful of issues? I don't think more than 10.
New 52?
Bingo!
Aha!
So that ends. And then eventually they shift to a digital first model on that at that point. The third story we're discussing tonight is from that digital first volume. Then that runs for a while, and all of those, that miniseries and these, despite being in more traditional DC house style, are pretty much in continuity with the animated series. Then we get them really trying to fold Batman Beyond into the DC universe. There were hints of it and teases of it before that. That Grant Morrison story in Batman 700 where you see Damian Batman rescuing a young Terry McGinnis. But then we get Future's End, which was a weekly time travel series involving Terry McGinnis traveling in time, meeting Tim Drake returning to the future because Terry dies and being Batman Beyond for a while, timeline rewriting itself and Terry being alive again. It's a mess.
That sounds awful.
It's not good. We aren't approaching that volume right now. We're sticking to the stuff that is at least somewhat in continuity with the original animated series.
When Matt says a Tim Drake storyline is bad, I believe him.
Yeah, no, because Future's End opens in the Batman Beyond time. So we're talking 30 something years in the future. And at that point, Brother Eye has taken over the world with, cyborgs. So Terry tries to travel back in time to the present of the DC universe to stop this from happening.
We're just doing a Terminator.
Yeah, but the problem is somehow the time travel misfires and he winds up not going back far enough. So he's now 5 years in the future from the present. It's too late to completely stop this from happening, but he has to still stop certain particular events from happening that will allow this future. So it's basically, hey, let's have an excuse to build this weird future world that's dystopic but not apocalyptic yet. And Tim Drake has retired and is just like a bartender, and Terry runs into him, and it's just a big fucking mess.
And it's not the Tim Drake from Batman Beyond.
No, it's the future version of the New 52 Tim Drake, my least favorite incarnation of Tim Drake. I will take Batman, the animated series, Batman Beyond Tim Drake, who's kind of Jason Toddy, over that mess of a Tim Drake from the early New 52 any day of the week. But yes, so that's where this exists. And we are starting with a story that is a sequel to the best episode of the new Batman Adventures. Or at least following up on threads from the best episode of the new Batman Adventures, Over the Edge, which we covered recently on an bonus episode. So if you want to hear us talk about Over the Edge, sign up for the Patreon and you can hear us talk about that particular really good episode of the new Batman Adventures.
It ranks currently number 8 on the little board.
Of over 70 stories. So that is a good spot for an episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Below Batman Begins, even.
This is a fine story, but there are plot holes that you could drive a truck through in this story.
I will say this is the least Batman Beyondy of the stories tonight. This is a more or less simple narrative of now Commissioner Barbara Gordon trying to deal with the lingering chronic effects of scarecrow gas and also solve a kidnapping.
I think the idea that a heavy dose of scarecrow gas works like LSD and you can get flashbacks to it is a good hook for a story.
Yeah, I mean, there should absolutely be lasting consequences from the more mundane trauma of the DC universe. Beyond what happens to Duke Hudson's parents. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Duke Thomas.
Duke Thomas. There. Yeah, that's better. Who's Duke Hudson?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
We've seen the lingering effects of toxins, but usually with Joker venom. Joker toxin, not with the scarecrow stuff. But it really makes sense that it's a psychotropic. It's a specific psychotropic, but it's a psychotropic. So as I said, it's like LSD flashbacks. You can go years and then suddenly you're tripping again. Here it's every few years Barbara starts experiencing the scarecrow gas trauma and Bruce has come up with some sort of narcotic or sleeping medicine that basically knocks her out for a couple of days so it can run its course. But she can't take it now because she is involved in the Monarch Butterfly case. I have never seen a story more where the kidnapped victim of the story is a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
We never see the girl. We don't know anything about the girl. The girl exists simply to forward this narrative.
Why is Barbara the only one who can figure this out? We don't know.
It's just that Barbara needs to be dedicated to this case to the detriment of herself. That in itself isn't even a plot hole. The thing that bugged the hell out of me about this is that Barbara finds out that the person behind this is some guy named Sweeney. When she and Terry start roughing up people around Gotham, it turns out that they're at a construction site that Sweeney's company is working on. If this guy has legitimate front organizations, why aren't the cops crawling all over every one of them? When you go after the mob, you go after their legitimate businesses. You know where they are. If they got their name on them, friggin' why did it take Batman roughing guys up for the cops to go and look in the places where this guy is doing business?
And why did this guy do a kidnapping?
Yeah, I mean, you assume, okay, he's some kind of mobster, but the mob doesn't tend to kidnap the children of the wealthy. And he looks like an extra from The Sopranos in a Batman Beyond suit when they draw this guy. He looks like Paulie Walnuts, not even an extra. He looks like a Sopranos character, for God's sake. That just struck me as an odd thing to do. But again, it felt like this whole story was more to do this Barbara Terry interaction and to have Barbara reckoning with the fear gas and giving a really good solid spotlight on Commissioner Barbara rather than the case really mattering.
Yeah, all of that stuff is in like 3 pages that they didn't have.
Yeah. This does very much show you the relationship Barbara and Terry and Barbara and Bruce have at this point. She does not get along with the Bats as well as her father did. She is much more distrusting of Bruce and of Terry.
It's and you know we'll get into this in the last story especially, but in this sort of world, it seems like everyone hates Bruce.
Yeah. Bruce shut himself off from everyone for a number of years.
As he is wont to do, as we have talked about.
Beyond that, he quit being Batman and kind of let Gotham fall apart a little. So there is some bitterness there as well. And didn't explain to, I think, anyone that he had a heart attack while out as Batman. So he really couldn't be Batman anymore. On top of all the trauma from Return of the Joker. Tim, we all know from, if you've seen Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, what Tim's issues are. They're intense. Barbara is gutsy here. Like, even at her most fearful, well, maybe not at her most fearful. At her most fearful, she's crippled by fear. But she pushes it when she's confronting Sweeney to get that last bit of information she needs. She's willing to endanger herself to do the right thing. She's still Barbara Gordon.
Has she had some kind of cybernetic enhancements, robot parts?
Not in this world.
Because it was interesting, you know, she does basically this superhero leap, and the line is, you know, this was easier when I had knees, but she makes like a superhuman kind of move.
I think that
I guess I read too much into that. It's just supposed to be, oh, I'm old, and that was bad.
Yeah. I mean, you're working with the mindset of having read mostly stories where she was Oracle at one point or another. So if she's up and about as an older lady walking, you assume there has to be something going on there. But no, she's just old. I always felt, because he only appeared in 1 or 2 episodes, you never get to know her husband, Sam, much. He's a really incidental character. He shows up in 1 episode because he's being hunted by an assassin. He's a DA. He's almost the MacGuffin of that story, where Barbara has to get Batman's help to protect him from a League of Assassins assassin who's been hired to bump him off. But after that, I'm trying to think if he pops up in any other episode of the animated series. He was there for that 1 story conveniently and then not again. I like their interaction where I've never asked you any questions about your past. I know you don't like talking about it. But when this is happening, don't you need to go away for a few days? And Barbara just puts her foot down. It's like, no, I can't. Not now. And Terry not even involving Bruce in this because Barbara specifically doesn't want Bruce involved. Over the course of the series, the relationships improve, but I place this somewhere in season 2 of the show. We're definitely pre-Return of the Joker, because that's kind of when Barbara and Tim come around on Bruce a little bit more. But this definitely feels like we're pre-Return of the Joker, because Barbara really wants very little to do with Bruce. The art here is good. It's very solid animated series style art. Can't figure out why they keep coloring Barbara's flashback hair as blonde when she has memories of the fall from over the edge. Her hair is blonde. I couldn't figure that out, but that's just a coloring miscue, I suppose.
This is going to be a very stupid question. Did you give the credits for this issue?
Yes.
Okay. I thought maybe you didn't.
No, I did.
It was a stupid question.
Yeah.
Who was the writer here?
Hilary Bader. She wrote pretty much this entire volume of Batman Beyond. We've talked about her before because we did at least one other issue from this volume, the Etrigan issue. She wrote some of the animated series as well. She wrote some DS9, some Voyager, a lot of new Batman adventures, Superman 2. She has a lot of credits from the DC animated universe.
I was thinking actually about Deep Space Nine while reading, again, the third story, especially. As this universe is darker and these relationships are more complicated, I was like, animated series is next gen, Batman Beyond is Deep Space Nine. And I felt clever for observing that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see them moving in that direction. Yeah. While Batman Beyond is not serialized in the same way that we view serialized storytelling now, it is much more serialized than Batman the Animated Series. There are subplots and big bads that recur and arcs within seasons, even though there are standalone episodes, and even the episodes that are part of those arcs really go out of their way to make the backstory accessible. The first season of Batman Beyond is basically a big arc, even if you can watch each episode on its own. But it's the Terry McGinnis versus Derek Powers season with one or two real one-offs in there.
And that makes sense because in Batman Beyond, you're introducing basically a whole new cast of characters, or they're familiar characters in very changed circumstances. Like these characters can grow and change and evolve, possibly die, go away, etc. The animated series, you're locked into a traditional comics, status quo, the illusion of change, like we always talk about. Like you can do Chekhov's Harvey, but other than that, you're not getting a lot of growth and development and change over the course of that series because it's Batman, baby. He ain't gonna change.
And they really go out of their way to not do a lot of the classic rogues over the course of those 3 seasons. 3 appear, and one of them is a cameo. You get a Mr. Freeze episode, you get the Talia Ra's al Ghul episode. Bane has a cameo in 1 episode. And that's it. You don't see, Cobblepots or anything like that. None of that appears. That's why Joker showing up in that Return of the Joker movie was such a big deal. You had the Jokers, but they aren't Joker. It was a big deal whenever one of those characters would pop up. And Tim Drake and Dick Grayson never appears in the show. He pops up in some of those later comics, as we'll see. But we never get Dick Grayson anywhere in there.
And I'm here to talk about Snake Plissken, Dick Grayson.
Yes.
But we'll get there.
We will. But I think we're good to move on here.
Yeah. Oh, that means it's time to Batman Beyond Volume 2, number 13, Commissioner Fear on the big board.
We've got 633 stories on the big board.
God damn.
Number 1 is Post-Crisis Origin of Batman, Batman Year 1.
Coming in at a still Sexy 69. It's Catwoman, Selena's big score.
At 150 is also still My Own Worst Enemy, the All-Star Batman arc featuring Two-Face. At 300 is Captive Audience, the Gotham Adventures animated series style issue where Alfred is kidnapped.
Coming in real high, not nearly as close to the bottom as it once was. At number 420, it's Batman and the Outsiders Volume 1, Annual number 1. And as I have it here, parentheses, hey, it's 1984.
At 450 is the completely wild Man-Bat miniseries, The
Oh, it's
Subterraneans.
Man Bat trying to start his little family. It's so beautiful. It's heartwarming.
And all the way at the bottom at 633, it's Three Jokers.
Oh my God, Jeff Johns, you should be shot out of a cannon. I would place this as the second story of the night.
Okay. So we have two other issues of this series. One is the current number 500, Grounded, where Spellbinder hypnotizes Bruce, gets Bruce back in costume, and he and Terry throw down. And 510, the Demon Etrigan issue.
I think this is significantly higher.
Yeah, I like, despite pointing out the plot holes don't matter because Barbara's arc and her interactions with Terry are both so good.
Does this beat the aforementioned crazy as hell Man Bat at 450?
There's more logical character here, but man, that Man-Bat miniseries is wild. And the John Bolton art is really, really nice. This is perfectly fine animated series style art.
I would probably put this above Dark Claw Adventures at 461.
Okay. How does the new 455 sound? Below that fun Golden Age superstition murders and above the Mad Hatter story with not the Jervis Tetch Mad Hatter, but the other Mad Hatter who's really into hats, not into Wonderland.
We don't talk about that other Mad Hatter.
So how about
455 it is.
all right.
Some other Mad Hatter. What are you talking about? Next thing you tell me, there's like 17 different clay faces.
Or Three Jokers.
Boo! You can see yourself out, Matthew.
That is a story that I'm just, I just continue to hope that it just continues to be forgotten. Our second story of the night is Terry's Mom Dates a Splicer. This is Batman Beyond Volume 2, number 24. The writer is Hilary J. Bader, with pencils by Craig Rousseau, inks by Rob Lee, colors by Shannon Blanchard, letters by John Costanza, and edited by Bob Schreck and Michael Wright. The cover date is October of 2001. A gang of splicers are attempting to steal something from the company Terry's mom is working for. Their leader, who can control his animal DNA, decides the easiest way to get in is to convince Terry's mom to let him in. Now, Batman must face one of his deadliest threats, his mother's date.
Matt, did you read the credits for this issue?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Seemed like you hadn't. This was too much Batman Beyond for me. As soon as we bring splicers into it, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, because you've only seen one or two episodes of Batman Beyond that we've covered on the bonuses, right?
Yes. And of course, the movie.
Right. I picked this one mostly because I have a very distinct memory of the cover, because it's got a really cool Darwin Cook cover. Because Cook worked on Batman Beyond doing character designs and such. It's got the cover of Terry flying as Terry's mom is being held in this giant monster hand. Very King Kong-y. The title is actually a reference to an episode of Batman Beyond, another one called Terry's Friend Dates a Robot, which is a weird science type thing where Terry has this nerdy friend who finds out that this guy is making robot girlfriends and he gets himself a robot girlfriend. Fun additional facts on Terry's Friend Dates a Robot is that the design for Terry's friend, who has clearly issues about women,
Paul Dini?
Yes, he's designed to look like Paul Dini. So someone at the animated series there was making a joke at the expense of one of their fellows.
Yikes. Yikes.
And that character, Howard, was voiced by Max Brooks, son of Mel Brooks.
Huh.
And the dude who sells him the robot, as I recall, it's been a while since I've seen the episode, but is drawn to very much look like Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi at his creepiest. Not voiced by him.
Steve Buscemi gets around in art.
He does. This story is not as memorable or as good as the first one. No, as the previous story. There's way too little character going on. Terry comes off as ridiculously petulant in this story.
Yeah.
And they keep saying that he's jealous of his mom going on a date. That's not the word you're trying for there.
No. No. And it was strange when mom's like, yeah, I'm gonna come home, but then we're going clubbing.
Yeah, middle-aged Mary McGinnis never struck me as the club kid type.
Yeah.
Him taking her to a late-night jazz club or something like that, that would be more in line with what's going on. Noah,
But it's future jazz.
Yes.
Space jazz.
Where you only hear the space notes you're not supposed to hear.
Oh.
But yeah, Noah the Splicer is a strange take. I assume you could get the general impression of what splicers are. It's basically just some guy, some mad scientist came up with the technology to combine human and animal DNA a la Man-Bat. And he does that. And that's what splicers are. You saw one of them in the Return of the Joker. One of the Jokers in that is a hyena splicer. Woof. But for some reason...
Woof.
But here, this guy, for some reason, has the metahuman ability to have all of these animals grafted into him and be able to summon different animal aspects at will, which is neat, but he is the most mustache twirly villain.
Give me the Martian DNA.
And I don't remember if we ever saw what Terry's mom did for a living in the series, but she never struck me as scientist at, some sort of space lab. I never got that impression from her. I figured she was some kind of business executive or something. But yeah, here, I guess she's working at Astrotech and in labs, not just in the executive wing, but she has access to the labs. Yeah, I didn't entirely know what to do with that. And boy, Terry's bad at secret identities in this story. How many times while in costume does he yell mom? Multiple. I kind of regret this story because there are better issues of the Batman Beyond tie-in comic. I just had a real distinct member of that great Darwin Cook cover.
And it's the last one of this volume, so I mean, why not pick it?
Yeah, and it's not a bad comic. It's just not a particularly memorable or good comic. It's just very there.
It's a comic.
Yeah, the previous story had a lot of drama and pathos with Barbara and with the relationship stuff. I feel like Bader wanted to do something here with Terry wrestling with his mom going out and moving on from his dad, but his parents were divorced before his father died. I don't see exactly why they never spent enough time explaining why Terry has such an issue with this, other than he has some kind of issues with this guy. And again, we have no real reason why he would.
He's just a petulant baby man.
Yeah, it's weird.
Good enough endpoint for me.
Yeah, not much here.
Oh, that means it's time for Batman Beyond Volume 2, number 24. Terry's mom has got it going on. Dates a Splicer on the big board. I feel like we're in the early parts of the 500s here.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be below either of those other Batman Beyond issues.
So we're below 511. But I also
Yes.
think we're above something like Grim Knight at 529.
Yeah. What about 522, The Kingdom, Son of the Bat? That's that one shot that is sort of Kingdom Come follow up with a pseudo Damien. I could go above that.
What about Flash Nightwing Doorway to Nightmare 520?
That's fun. That has some quirkiness to it. That's that one shot where Nightwing and Flash go to a Winchester Mystery House-esque place, and it turns out Cthulhu-y things are involved with it.
Want to say new 521 then?
Yeah, right below that. And our final story of the night is 10,000 Clowns. This is Batman Beyond Unlimited, numbers 1 to 13. The writer is Adam Beechin, with pencils by Norm Brayfogle, inks also by Brayfogle, colors by Andrew Elder, letters by Saida Temafonte, and edited by Jim Chadwick, Sarah Gatos, and Ben Abernathy. The cover dates are April of 2012 through April of 2013. The Jokers have never been anything more than a nuisance, a loose association of street gangs inspired by the Joker. But when a leader surfaces, the Joker King, Batman must face a frighteningly organized army of Jokers. With his normal allies sidelined, Batman must gather a team to stop the Joker King, who has an unexpected connection to Terry's personal life. As I said, this is the point where the Batman Beyond stuff went digital first. So we have 13 issues of a digital first story that, when released in print, were in a sort of anthology book with Superman Beyond and Justice League Beyond stories as well. So each issue had multiple stories in it. It was a fun little way to connect that stuff and collect it as well. Also, as I said in the opening, this is no longer really animated series style. This is Norm Brayfogle, who we've read a lot of Norm Brayfogle art, mostly with Alan Grant. But now he's working with Adam Beechin on this series. Beechin had been writing all of this new sort of Batman Beyond since DC started doing these miniseries and that short-lived ongoing. He'd stayed on the book when it went digital first. He did a lot of Batman Beyond for this entire era.
And this gives Brayfogle a long, long career in comics.
Oh, yeah. He was in comics for a very long time. He had a good 30 plus year career before he passed in 2018. Mid 80s through the early 20 teens or early 2010s. I think his yeah, this would have been his last work at DC anyway.
Mm,
Yeah,
heck of a run.
yeah. And a lot of it was Batman.
This story's dark.
Oh, it's real fucking dark. It's dark, it's complex without ever getting overly complicated. I never
Yeah.
lose the thread of what's going on here, despite there being numerous things going on. And Beechin clearly was working with the mindset of, I've got runway. Because he's paying off things from the previous volumes while also setting up things for more of this volume with subplots and introducing all sorts of new characters. Catwoman Beyond and Dick Grayson of this world were introduced in the earlier stories in this run, in that first miniseries or the Batman Beyond series that came out of that miniseries.
I can see this version of Grayson as one who just stayed in Spiral.
With his one eye and cybernetic arm. And he's bitter. He and Bruce really don't get along. Like, Terry has talked enough to Barbara and to Tim that they've come around on Bruce a little. Dick has not.
He's just angry snake bat Pliskin.
He is. And that is a great metaphor. The eye patch and everything. The Snake Plissken of him is really obvious.
But we still got time to make some butt jokes.
Oh, we do. And while this is sort of one story, it does pull away from that one story for a couple of asides. Because the first issue is the prelude to 10,000 Clowns. But then we get four or five issues that aren't 10,000 Clowns. We get a Mad Stan story. Mad Stan was a running gag on Batman Beyond. There might be one episode that's actually a Mad Stan episode, but mostly he would show up and rant for a little while, and Terry would knock him out and then go on to actually deal with the villain of the week. Stan was a gag.
I was going to ask who the fuck that was.
No, he's the libertarian mad bomber of Gotham City.
Ugh.
It was funny.
You're not changing the age of consent laws. Go away.
I don't think he was that kind of creepy, fortunately. We never got that impression from Stan.
They're all that kind of creepy.
We get this Mad Stan story, and then there's the Jack Chill one-shot.
That was weird.
It's weird that you get a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead in the Batman Beyond origin, only it turns out that it's Joe Chill's great nephew, which is a little too cute by half.
Yeah.
Him talking about how the thing his uncle always remembered was the eyes of the kid, which is very, very Joe Chill, very, very Batman. But then we get him being the one who was ordered by Derek Powers' right-hand man, Mr. Fix, to actually be the guy who killed Warren McGinnis, that he did it on Fix's orders. It's contrived or just convenient.
Kind of like Thomas Wayne saving Joe Chill's daughter.
Yeah, it falls in that area where it feels a bit contrived. It works for the story, but he didn't necessarily need to be Joe Chill's nephew. It could have just been anyone who was the guy who had to make that shot and was haunted by it.
We've done enough with Joe Chill.
Yes, Joe Chill works best as just a mugger. You don't need his family. You don't need his history. He's just a guy. Well, one day they'll have to do Batman Full Circle, which is, I think, the closest I've ever come to really being like, we're connecting Chill with other stuff, and I actually kind of like what's going on here.
Now, hey, pitch your story. Some kind of weird cosmic specter story of talking with Joe Chill about how he has to kill the Waynes. Joe Chill as Judas being tortured by this choice that is cosmically ordained. I'd be interested in that. Did you ever read that Judas miniseries from Boom? Depicted in stained glass art. And again, it's like Judas as a tortured character. It was really beautiful.
That's interesting. I would definitely be up for that. But it especially is a hat on a hat for this story.
Yeah.
When the Joker King is also somewhat wrapped up in Terry's life.
Because, oh, shit. It's my would-be brother-in-law.
Yeah. Dana, Terry's girlfriend's previously unmentioned brother. Dana's a regular character from episode 1 of the series, of the animated series. Like, she's there from Jump.
Yeah, I got this brother. His name's Doug. He's really into the Joker.
Yeah. They're probably less intimidating names than Doug. Can't think of many, though.
Dennis. Francis.
Okay, I can definitely go with Francis.
Todd.
There's real Jim Gordon Jr. vibes to Douglas, to the Joker King. The narcissism, the sociopathy, the obsession with the Joker. He really has some Jim Gordon Jr. vibes going on here. And the genius level intellect. But he's not quite as creepy as Jim Gordon Jr.
No. he doesn't really seem to be the type that would like pull wings off a fly or torture animals to death or anything like that. But Dougie had a perfectly good point. Like eventually the sun's going to burn out. Nothing matters.
One can always argue if nothing matters, then that makes everything we do matter more. Because why do anything if nothing matters? Then let's make what we do matter, which is, I think, where Terry gets by the end of the story. Terry has this deep introspective moment after being wounded. He thinks about his life. He thinks about how he hasn't considered where he's going to go with his life, what it means to be Batman. And then he winds up realizing that it matters what he has to do. He has to do right. So he gets up and he goes to help Dick take down the Joker King.
How long does this run continue?
Again, I get lost with this because of the number of times they rebooted, unbooted this series. I think Batman Beyond Unlimited runs for another arc, and then it gets another name change. It becomes Batman Beyond Universe. Okay, yes, the next is Universe, which runs for 16 more issues. And that's the end of this iteration. When we get the next volume of Batman Beyond is that let's try to tie the DC Universe more into this volume.
Do we ever find out who Vigilante is?
That's Chill.
Oh, okay. I was a little confused in how the story was laid out.
Yeah, no, Vigilante's Chill. We never learn much more about Catwoman, as I recall. She remains an enigma throughout. What Doug's whole plan here, the nihilism and then turning the Jokers into a suicide cult, is fucked.
Gassing them and convincing them to be a suicide cult. That is pretty fucked.
That's real dark. And we just see the increasing body count and the horrors, and then him pulling a Batman 89 Joker where he just offs his right-hand man. I gotta say, the name Pagliacci, it's like, okay, that's pretty fun. Going for a Pagliacci reference in your clown villain name, I'll give you that.
Look, there are 10,000 clowns. You got chances to reference all of the big ones.
Which, by the way, that title, that is a deep cut. That is a reference to a movie called 1,000 Clowns from like the 60s. What a weird thing to reference. I mean, it's a fun movie. I believe based on a play, because I saw the play on Broadway with Tom Selleck in the lead many years ago.
Tom Selleck on Broadway.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he was good.
I imagine it's a better movie than The Day the Clown Cried.
I would assume. We can never know since no one has ever seen The Day the Clown Cried. And on top of the darkness, we also get the Bruce dying thing going on here, which is wrapped up rather neatly in the next issue. I don't want to spoil how it gets wrapped up, but it all revolves around the end of this story and how Bruce gets a new liver. And again, it's the same thing as the Barbara having the flashbacks from the fear gas, years of Bruce taking abuse and taking lots and lots of pain meds because of all of the abuse he's done to his body over the years, coming home to roost. It makes sense that something like that is going to happen and that he's Bruce about things, so didn't tell anyone.
We're just going to put all of our money into new livers.
Bringing Tim Drake into this and him working for Wayne and Terry needing him to help because he's lost his support structure, that Bruce is in the hospital and Max, his best friend, the person who knows his identity, has been kidnapped by a mysterious group of hackers, which is obviously the next arc that we're seeding here.
And everyone hates the idea of Tim getting involved, including Tim.
If you've seen Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, it's understandable. I can completely understand why Tim really doesn't want to be involved with this and why Dick is super pissed, calls Terry, you cold son of a... But I liked how the Mad Stan story, which seemed at the beginning to just be another fun little story, winds up having an effect on this story because there's a little something that's introduced there that comes around again. Again, when you have the runway, when you know you're getting enough issues, you can build this kind of stuff. It's nice. A lot of character work in here. I think it builds off the animated series well, while not having to worry about being an all ages book. This is much more in line with your standard DC fare and is not working under the we have to make this accessible to the 8 to 10 crowd. Because by the time this book was coming out, the kids who were watching Batman Beyond were in their 20s.
But it definitely clearly follows that continuity.
Yes. We are not working in the DC universe stuff. We're working in the Batman the Animated Series continuity and introducing other aspects into it. This is most assuredly Story of the Night.
Yes.
This is a really well done story that gives you lots to think about when it comes to Terry and Bruce and their relationship and Terry's relationships with the people around him. Not his mom. We don't see his mom other than in flashbacks.
Too busy clubbing.
But we get plenty of time with him and Dana and him and Bruce and him and the rest of the Bat family. And Bruce making his peace with Barbara by getting Wayne Enterprises to work with the GCPD and providing them with better weapons and better equipment. Probably non-lethal armament because it's Wayne. But I found this a very enjoyable story.
Yes. Yeah. The 10,000 Jokers story specifically, and very tense, right? There's literally the ticking clock of bombs going up all over Gotham. And I thought that drama was done very nicely.
Yes, it makes for an intense story as you see the explosions going off and Terry having to work with Catwoman, who has been a nemesis, if not a villain, Vigilante, who he doesn't know, and Dick, who's not happy about it.
Very, very cranky. And there's a sort of helplessness that we don't often see in Bat books. Like they just have to stand around and watch as a lot of these bombs go up.
And Bruce in the hospital not able to do anything no matter how much he tries because he's doubling over in pain constantly.
But still trying to be Bruce, still trying to be Batman.
Of course.
I think on that note of finality, it's time, but Batman Beyond Unlimited 1 to 13, 10,000 clowns on the big board.
I am trying to find a.
How about well, hey, I got a great. Well, I got confused momentarily. Excuse me. I have at least a starting point for discussion. Battle for the Cowl 419.
Oh, I would put this above Battle for the Cowl. This is more cogent. It's not just there to get from point A to point B. All the characters are in character, as opposed to that weirdly out of character Damien Battle for the Cowl.
So that would take us out of the 400s and into at least the 300s.
Yes. I'm just trying to find something where I'm immediately like, okay, this is definitely better. 350 right now is First Snow, the New 52 origin of Mr. Freeze.
Ooh, I do like that one.
I could put this below that. What about War of Jokes and Riddles at 364?
I was just looking at maybe the new 360 right below Batman Goes Broke, because that is such a lovely story.
Sure, I can go for that. So the new 360 is 10,000 Clowns. And that does it for tonight. Next week, friend of the show and Patreon backer Josh Wheel is joining us again to talk Batman Incorporated. Remember, you can support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/batchatwithmattandwill, where you can get shoutouts, bonus content, pick a story, and even come on the show. We'd like to thank those Patreon backers: Dan Grote, Josh Wheel, Mrs. Abigail Hartbaum, Asma Fangirl, Tony Thornley,
Go Aggies.
Sam Hopper,
Go to bed, Sam.
John Wickham,
That fucking asshole.
Robert Secundus,
Put down the discourse, Bubby.
Tim Rooney, Giorgio Sergioli, David Wheel,
World's greatest gray belt.
Alexander Wheel, Matt McThorne,
McThorny.
Dan Offer,
Byerly Newer.
Nate Randell, Daniel Mosley, Ross Holmes,
Mr. Random Ace.
Will Crisp,
Me compadre, who's been sick this week. You get to feeling better, which, he's going to listen to this maybe 3 weeks from now. He's either going to be better or dead. I'm hoping for better.
Carlos Cordova, Jordan Jennings, and Charlie Etheridge Nunn for their support. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music/Audible, YouTube Music, Podbean, and on comicsxf.com, where new episodes drop every Thursday. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I talk about comics and other random things, and Letterboxd, where I review all the movies I watch, both at MattLaz1013.
I am still on Twitter at Will Nevin. And you know what? Maybe I can just get off Facebook, go exclusively to Twitter, and I'm sure I can find the same AI slop on Twitter. I'm actually going to microwave some slop here, some gruel, and then I'm going to go to bed. Good night, Huntsville.
And be sure to visit ComicsXF at comicsxf.com or ComicsXF on Blue Sky for our weekly Friday Bat Chat roundup of new Bat books, for my other show, the ComicsXF Interview Podcast, where my longtime best friend Dan Grote and I interview comics creators, retailers, publishers, journalists, and other related tradespeople, as well as all the other stuff Will and I are writing. And stay safe out there, folks. Gotham is not a place to be after dark.